Kriegspielers, welcome to the battle report for Grand Gettysburg II, a sprawling online struggle where 40 players and a dozen umpires recreated this epic battle from the American Civil War. Let me orient you to the map. Our graphic design expert Damon created this excellent map of Gettysburg. You can see here the famous historical terrain features. Starting on the east, there is the town of Gettysburg with a series of hills to its south and the water feature of Rock Creek to the southeast. To the far south is Little Round Top. McPherson and Seminary Ridge lie to the west of Gettysburg. The Peach Orchard is known from history. Willoughby Run is another water feature. Gettysburg sits at the junction of 9 key roads, which made a military engagement there probable. Many of these road names are known to history. A grand game in the International Kriegspiel Society is an all-hands effort. Umpire Tunisgrad, the lead umpire, organized a complex preparation process. What you see on the left are the unit counters. The counters here are 2 divisions and the supporting artillery of Sykes' 5th Corps. On the right, you see an example of a visual report a player would get when their units were deployed on the Kriegspiel map. In Kriegspiel, the players operate on limited information, which are provided by umpires. In order for you to be able to clearly see what is happening, this report will use the corps level order of battle that you see here. Notice Confederate corps are larger, almost double the size of Union corps. Though Union forces were more numerous than Confederate, the total of Union forces did not arrive until later stages of the battle. The scenario was based on historical facts, and our umpires led a pre-game operational set of maneuvers that changed the entry and presence of different Union and Confederate forces for the scenario. Umpire Lake Zarina led this process, and we'll listen to his explanation now.
The really big thing was that Stuart was in Gettysburg. The reason why was following basically the logic of what if Stuart did not go on his ride around the Union Army. The entirety of the Pennsylvania campaign of '63, Lee did not have what he called his eyes. He was completely blind. So if that were not the case, well, you'd want eyes. So where would you put your eyes? Well, you want it facing south so that your command, which is all over southern Pennsylvania, to make sure that they are not attacked. So you put them in Gettysburg, which is where the armies were, where the Union was coming up to, I should say. I started the game at morning of June 30th, essentially 24 hours before the battle, and essentially in the historical situation, except for Stuart and Gettysburg. And then left it up to player interpretation as to when certain commanders, like what they would do with that time.
Here is a map of the first day of the historical battle. The Union 1st Cavalry under Buford encountered Heath's division of A.P. Hill's 3rd Corps. Both sides rushed units forward until the Confederates had Hill's 3rd Corps and Ewell's 2nd Corps pushing the Union 1st under Reynolds and 11th under Howard back through Gettysburg, where Hancock and the 2nd had just come up. Historically, the first day ended with the Union forces south of Gettysburg, as you see here. The scenario begins at 0800. The Union has 3 corps on the field, the 3rd, 11th, and 12th. In the north, the 3rd Cavalry under Kilpatrick, and in the south, the 2nd under Gregg. The Confederate 2nd and 3rd Corps enter the area. The 3rd makes it south of Gettysburg unopposed. The cavalry commander, Stuart, has moved south to screen. Ewell, commanding the 2nd, enters later from the northeast. By 0900, the Union 2nd Cavalry is skirmishing with Hill's Confederate Corps near Cemetery Hill. Confederate cavalry under Stuart in the south slows the advance of the Union 3rd Corps and the 1st Union Corps under Reynolds, which has now entered the field. Union cavalry under Kilpatrick in the north are tracking Ewell's movements. Let's listen in to a conference between Lee, Ewell, and Hill, who have gathered near where you see the speech bubble next to Gettysburg.
Well, as long as you have something going towards Wolf Hill to occupy that high ground and begin digging in, I think that's acceptable. And then you can decide how you want to deal with the cavalry as they observe us. Though I imagine that as soon as you start trying to push them off, they'll run away.
I'm going to have early sort them out. You should be able to handle it. Johnston and Johnson and Rhodes will be moving on the hill, and I'm going to be moving to make sure that they achieve that objective as quickly as possible next turn.
Light pressure. They've got infantry forming up, so they'll probably start attacking in the next 40 minutes, probably not the next 20.
Now let's listen to the Union commander, General Meade's take on the situation as he moves along the Taneytown Road in the south.
Now we don't know where Second Corps is. There's a bunch of people being engaged and no situation reports coming in. So I'm just working off very minimal information. But that was the plan, is to take the key terrain on day one, not necessarily do an all-out assault. But now I don't know if that's viable, and I'm just trying to understand what's actually going on.
At 10:20, Longstreet has entered with the Confederate First Corps on the Chambersburg Pike in the northwest with the intention of reaching Seminary Ridge. Stuart continues to delay the Union 1st and 3rd Corps along the Emmetsburg Road. The Union 12th Corps and 2nd Cav began attacking the Confederate 3rd Corps under Hill west of Wolf's Hill. The Union cavalry in the north under Kilpatrick seizes the opportunity to delay Ewell. Let's listen into Kilpatrick's perspective.
My commander told me to split my force in two and to guard both roads. But I have found a good target, I would say, so I will ignore this order for now and do this.
At 11:20 in the south, the 2nd Union Corps under Hancock has come up the Taneytown Road to join the 12th and 2nd Cavalry. Collectively, they are closing in on Hill's position south of Gettysburg. Part of Ewell's command has reached Wolf's Hill in the east, but a division under Early is left behind to deal with the Union cavalry under Kilpatrick. In the south, Stuart continues to delay the deployment of the Union force. Longstreet's corps is spread out all along the Chambersburg Pike, and Longstreet himself is approaching McPherson's Ridge. Let's listen to his thought process.
I figured that it was going to be a fight when I came in. I didn't think it was going to be quiet in the least. Honestly, I expected more troops to be on the field before I got here. But my original orders, which actually look like it's going to be what it is take out 11th Corps.
At 12:40, Stuart and his cavalry have been pushed back by Union forces, and a rough line of defense and attack forms from west to east. Longstreet sends Hood south along McPherson's Ridge as the remainder of his corps comes up. Lee has traveled southeast to Ewell's position to oversee the eastern defenses. Let's listen to Lee and Rhodes, a division commander in Ewell's corps, confer about the defense around Wolf's Hill.
Yeah, this is not great. I think if worse comes to worse, I think I agree with your initial assessment, is we'll just send some brigades over to across the river to Hill from this side, and use them to reinforce the defensive line, not assault.
Honestly,
it's late, right?
It might be a good idea because honestly, I'm starting to get pretty overstretched. If we just wanted to pull back, I could hold Hill 444 and 420 sort of alone, and then you could have Johnston pull back and try to hook around out.
That sounds like a great idea. That sounds like a fantastic idea, Rhodes. Let's try and do that. Let's do that. Next turn, let's maneuver a division into Hill's line from behind, and then we'll get Rhodes. You'll anchor that 444 420 sector.
At 1400, Longstreet sends Pickett west to oppose Howard's 11th Union Corps, while having Hood conduct a separate attack south along the Willoughby Run. This attack bloodies Hood's units as he encounters Sickles' 3rd Union Corps. Kilpatrick's cavalry along York Road in the northeast is driven off, and Ewell's corps can finally consolidate in the east. This is good for Ewell, as the Union 12th Corps has begun their attack on Wolf's Hill. At 1540, Reynolds and the Union 1st moved to the Emmetsburg Road and joined the 2nd Corps in an attack on the Confederate 3rd Corps. This causes many casualties and losses on both sides. Howard's 11th Corps pushes hard on Hood and elements of Stuart's cavalry, and they move back toward Gettysburg. Pickett has gone far west to chase down the enemy and drives back elements of the Union Third Corps under Humphreys. The day's combat ends at 1700 as the Union attack exhausts itself. Heavy losses throughout the day has spent many units on both sides. The day ends with both sides consolidating in the positions you see here. A new player has taken over the role of Meade, who we have begun calling Meade II. Let's hear his thoughts, then Lee's on the day's events.
I think I've heard some news of a Confederate attack on the right flank across Rock Creek. I'm not sure. The dispatch I got seemed pretty panicked. I'm not sure how much of that is. I know we've got a lot of new players on our team, so I don't know how much of that is just that's a new player panic, and how much is genuine, or not genuine, but you know what I mean. Warranted. So I'm moving over there. We've got Second Division, or Second Corps rather, has probably a division, maybe 2 divisions we can commit to our right, and 12th is also could probably spare a division or at least a couple of brigades to reinforce that, and it's a pretty good position, so I'm not too worried about that attack on the right. This is going to get quoted at me when I find out I go over there and they've rolled up the whole army or something. But yeah, hopefully, I don't think it's too bad at the moment. So I'm gonna go check them out, see what's up with 12th Corps, and yeah, I'm not sure if we'll end up launching any sort of advance today. I want to have a strong defensive position with more than one line deep, across the whole area.
I would say that every single one of my corps commanders is pissed and just exasperated with the situation, and I do think that we are facing some pretty tough circumstances. I'm not entirely sure what's going on our left with Yule, but I think he's being slightly pushed back. Obviously, our center appears to be breaking, unless we can plug it with whatever we have left. And the right seems to be doing okay-ish, but I think that the Union has bloodied us, and they have definitely dealt more casualties to us today than we have dealt to them.
Here we see the final positions for the Day 1 scenario compared with the positions held by the two sides historically. Our players have maneuvered into lines anchored on Cemetery Hill south of Gettysburg, and in a reversal from the historical, the Confederates hold the high ground, and the Union needs to conduct an attack to dislodge them. Here is the casualty count from the first day. Unlike the historical first day, where 2 Confederate corps face off against 3 Union corps, both sides were nearly entirely engaged on the first day. As a result, the Confederates suffered 11% and the Union 9% casualties. The Confederates had a larger force, and therefore numerically suffered more losses. The second day of the battle was reconvened by the players a week later in real time. Historically, on day 2 and 3 of the battle, the Union forces had positioned themselves on the hills south of Gettysburg in the famous Fishhook Formation. The Confederates were forced to attack them repeatedly. The second day of this scenario starts at 0500 hours, and in a reverse of history, the Confederates hold the hill complex south of Gettysburg. The Union 5th Corps under Sykes arrives in the south along the Taneytown Road, and the 6th Union Corps under Sedgwick arrives in the southeast along the Baltimore Pike. Let's hear this day's opening perspective from Lee, then from Meade.
Well, assuming that the Union doesn't disrupt things right at the get-go, we're hoping to establish a strong defensive line from the Wolf Hills all the way up Seminary Ridge. We have a pretty good established position on the left around the Wolf Hills. We just need to get one more division over there to fortify that. But Longstreet is spread out all the way across our right along this creek. I think it's called Willoughby Run.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to make it easy for him to maneuver, especially if the Union decides they're going to try to attack him or Seminary Ridge right from the get-go. Honestly, I think that's perhaps a reasonable plan for them to do so. I don't know what strength they have in front of that position, but the fact that we're very spread out and can't quite defend it at the moment might endear a good strategy on their part because they could cause a bit of chaos. If they give us a few hours, we're gonna be a lot more consolidated, and it's gonna be a lot tougher nut to crack.
So the general plan is for 1st Division of 12th Corps, along with 6th Corps, to make a dawn attack on the Confederates' far left flank and try and force them out of those hills east of Rock Creek. That, however, is mainly a diversion. Though depending on success, it may become more. But the main force of our attack is for 5th Corps to move in behind 1st Division of 3rd Corps, and for the other division of 3rd Corps to be released to come up to join it. Those 2 corps to launch an attack on the southern end of Seminary Ridge, and to take the ridge and split the Confederate Army, allowing us to press off one of their corps, and either force the Confederates to evacuate the hills southeast of Gettysburg, or be surrounded and crushed upon them.
By 0600, Sykes' 5th Corps has moved into position for the attack on the west. Sedgwick's 6th Corps is moving along the Baltimore Pike to conduct an attack in the east. Union 1st Cavalry under Buford arrives along the Emmitsburg Road to screen the southwestern flank of the Union forces. Opposing him, the Confederate cavalry commander Jeb Stuart is sent south to try and disrupt the Union efforts along the Emmitsburg Road. Let's hear Stuart's perspective as he reaches the Willoughby Run.
I want to disrupt or spoil any effort they're going to make to attack. And in particular, I suspect, and I had this conversation with General Lee overnight, that they're going to attack Seminary Ridge. Because looking at the map from my perspective, that is where we are weakest. That is where the high ground advantage is essentially negated, because they get to attack the ridge head edge on instead of straight on. And that's where I would expect them to stack up and attack. So what I am hoping to do, my plan, is to get behind that stack that I would anticipate is there and create confusion and disruption in the enemy rear so that they're unable to make that attack.
At 0640, Stuart and Buford clash at the Willoughby Run. Sedgwick begins his attack of Wolf's Hill. The remainder of the Union forces are in position for their attack in the west. The Confederates are on the high ground, waiting for them. Let's hear from Hancock, who leads the 2nd U.S. Corps. He is positioned south of A.P. Hill's forces, who are defending Culp's and Cemetery Hill.
Our plan for the morning, well, I've been talking with General Meade, and we have thought of doing an attack on Cemetery Hill, Culp's Hill, as a diverting move to hopefully allow our reinforcing corps to come up, head northwest, attack the isolated Confederate corps, and then sweep to the east. So right now, it's just to keep the Confederates pinned down and busy this morning.
At 0800, the Union launches its attack all along the front, with its main effort up the western side along the McPherson and Seminary ridges. Let's hear the perspective of Sykes, who is at the forefront of the attack. Then the Confederate Division Commander Pickett, who is receiving the attack.
We've attacked Confederate center, quite successfully so, and now there's a large gazing gap in their center, which my 1st Division is about to exploit, hopefully. I'm not sure where 11th Corps is. We're kind of hoping they're gonna come up on our left soon, or like eventually at least.
But I'm currently being attacked by what I believe to be 3 Union Corps. I can see 5th, which is pushing and battering McLaw's division, which is a problem. He has completely run out of reserves. 3rd, which I wrecked yesterday, is still very much present in the area. At least 1 division, and they are driving my situation mad. I'm trying to refuse the flank, which means that I'm having to directly oversee a lot of maneuver. I'm trying to establish a defensive line on Seminary Ridge. From that, I have to cobble up whatever reserve I have left over and plug in the gap in McLaw's division, and I am being attacked by 3 corps and probably 3 more because there's Union forces forming up on the Willoughby Run. Where the hell is Stewart? And apparently, both Hill and Ewell are being themselves attacked by like 3 corps each.
Now we will hear from Meade, then Lee.
I've ordered most of the line, 1st, 2nd, 12th, and 6th Corps to hold position and fire with artillery, but other than that, they're not to advance. I'm letting 5th and 11th continue the advance to see if we're, 20 to 40 minutes away from breaking the Confederates. But if it just continues to grind, we'll call them back. But just depends on how much the Confederates have left in them.
It's
Well-
if the situation does look pretty grim when you're in the town and everyone is basically falling back. But I think we actually managed to hold the line. I'm not entirely sure. I suspect that the right is going to be pressed, but the Union all of a sudden retreated down from our center. They could have broken right through Hill, and they turned around, and I'll take it. We were hoping to bloody the Union's nose on this day and counterattack on day 3, but I don't believe there is even any forces to do so.
By 0940, the Union attack in the west succeeds in driving Longstreet's corps back into Gettysburg, taking Seminary Ridge and cutting the Chambersburg Pike where you see the yellow star. This result cuts off the Confederate line of communication, which put the Confederate forces in a difficult position, despite the fact they still hold the high ground of Culp's and Wolfe's Hills in the east. In the south, Stuart makes no progress in his force back from Willoughby Run. The casualty count is now over 25% for the Confederates and nearly 21% for the Union. Historically, the Confederates lost 35% of their men at Gettysburg, but 25% and the loss of its route of retreat back to Virginia is enough. The Confederates withdraw east and northeast along the York and Hanover roads. Stuart's cavalry, depleted and cut off, is faced with the requirements of a harrowing escape. The Union has carried the field as it did historically, albeit in a different way. Thanks for watching this report on the International Kriegspiel Society's Grand Gettysburg II. We hope you enjoyed it. This is Umpire LaFondios encouraging you to come in and join us in recreating other historical battles from which we learn and enjoy our community. We'll see you out there.